World War I was a global war originating in Europe that lasted from July 28, 1914 to November 11, 1918. Contemporaneously described as the war to end all wars, it led to the mobilization of more than 70 million military personnel, including 60 million Europeans, making it one of the largest wars in history. Over 16 million people died, including 9.7 million Europeans, and an additional 7.9 million were wounded. The war began after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie, by Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist on June 28, 1914. Serbia's allies, Russia and France, and Austria-Hungary's ally, Germany, were drawn into the conflict. Within weeks, the major powers were at war and the conflict had expanded into a global war. The war was fought on multiple fronts, including the Western Front, the Eastern Front, the Italian Front, the Middle Eastern Front, and the African Front. The Western Front was the most active front, and saw the most fighting and casualties. The Eastern Front was also a major front, and saw some of the bloodiest battles of the war. The Italian Front saw fighting between Italy and Austria-Hungary, and the Middle Eastern Front saw fighting between the Ottoman Empire and the Allied powers. The African Front saw fighting between the Allied powers and Germany and its allies. The war ended with the signing of the Armistice of November 11, 1918. The Allied powers emerged victorious, and the Central Powers were defeated. The war had a profound impact on the world, and led to the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires. It also led to the creation of the League of Nations, an international organization that was intended to prevent future wars. The causes of World War I are complex and have been debated by historians for many years. Some of the most common causes include: 1. Militarism. Militarism is the belief that a strong military is essential to a nation's security. In the years leading up to World War I, there was a growing sense of militarism in Europe. This was due in part to the rise of nationalism, which led to a desire for strong national militaries. 1. Alliances. In the years leading up to World War I, the major European powers formed alliances with each other. These alliances were designed to protect each country in the event of war. However, they also made it more likely that a small conflict would escalate into a larger war. 1. Imperialism. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, European powers were competing for control of overseas empires. This competition for resources and territory led to tensions between the European powers. 1. Nationalism. Nationalism is the belief that a nation should be ruled by its own people. In the years leading up to World War I, there was a growing sense of nationalism in Europe. This led to a desire for independence from foreign powers, and it also led to conflict between different ethnic groups. 1. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie was the spark that ignited World War I. The assassination was carried out by a Serbian nationalist, and it led to Austria-Hungary declaring war on Serbia. This led to a series of alliances being invoked, and within weeks, the major powers were at war. The causes of World War I are complex and have been debated by historians for many years. However, the factors listed above are some of the most common causes that have been identified.